last space shuttle makes its final flight.
This is the last of the last of the last.
We have one last chance to see her through the eyes of those who know her best.
It's not going to be easy for everybody just to walk out of here.
6, 5, 4.
It's an exclusive inside look at the end of an era.
We have made it.
A time for reflection.
It's in the human spirit to explore, and the shuttle's allowed us to do that. It's an amazing feat of engineering.
And a celebration of the craft that has shown our planet and our universe in ways barely imagined 30 years ago.
It's like, hey, we ought to do something like that again.
Final inspection team and closeout crew have entered the pad.
Today, a remarkable era of exploration comes to an end. After Atlantis takes to the air, there will be no more space shuttles. Someday, mankind may build a better craft for bringing humans and cargo back and forth to space, but that's a concern for another time. Today, NASA's job is to keep Atlantis and her crew safe in the final hours before the last launch. The countdown begins over a year in advance. Atlantis needs a complete overhaul. Every inch must be inspected and repaired. 2,000 technicians check over 2 million parts and systems. They know what's at stake. One small flaw not spotted by the engineers will mean one giant catastrophe for the astronauts who will ride millions of pounds of explosive fuel into space. Ferguson, Hurley, Magnus, and Walheim will be the last crew to fly the shuttle. They follow in the footsteps of some of the bravest, most intrepid explorers to leave Earth.
We really did do some fantastic things with the vehicle. I was picked to go fly a mission where we were going to try to rescue the satellite for the first time and go out and repair that while it was on orbit.
NASA's fleet of 5 shuttles not only ferried astronauts and supplies to the space station, but launched experiments that would change our understanding of the cosmos.
We had started to do astronomy missions to Jupiter, to Venus. Then we started doing the telescope stuff. Hubble was the first great observatory we put up.
This is Hubble Telescope Control. Bring down. Okay, we have a go for release and we're going to be a minute late. Okay, Charlie.
I don't know how many times have we flown to Hubble, 4 or 5 times, to service, repair, fix, replace, upgrade.
Also strap on the left storage from here.
My meteoress, and telescope's released. Okay, thank you.
And what magnificent and wondrous pictures we have gotten from Hubble. The birth of stars, the death of stars, the formation of galaxies, fundamentally the beginnings of the universe.
The space shuttle has brought the final frontier closer.
We were doing what the vehicle was designed to do. One badge goes there.
Jerry Sheehan joined the shuttle team as a junior engineer in 1973.
We're going into OPF Bay 1, Space Shuttle Atlantis.
Now he's responsible for ensuring Atlantis is fit to fly.
That's the front end of a Space Shuttle orbiter. It's about the size of a 737 airplane. It's a big airplane. It's very difficult to see because there's so many access platforms that we have around it so that we can inspect everything, assure everything's ready for flight. The Space Shuttle vehicle is 3 major parts. The backbone, the core of the shuttle is the external tank. The two solid rocket boosters, the white boosters on either side of the tank, and then the orbiter attached to the top.
Enter Shuttle. It's the first reusable space vehicle.
The idea of a spacecraft that could shuttle back and forth to space was revolutionary. Jerry remembers seeing the famous Delta Wing design on the drawing board.
The Air Force wanted to do polar orbits from Vandenberg, fly over our arch enemy at the time, the Soviet Union, do some reconnaissance, and then land. Well, we get into a little lesson on orbital mechanics. The Earth is turning like this, so when you launch off this way on a polar orbit, and the Earth keeps turning, by the time you come around one orbit, the spot where you took off from on the surface of the Earth is now 1,100 miles to the east. So in order for you to get back down to where you took off from, you've got to have enough control to move 1,100 miles. That's what drove the requirement for wings, big wings, with lots of cross range.
The space shuttle's magic is the magnitude of it. It's like taking a 737, tipping it on its side, strapping 500,000 gallons of rocket fuel to it, and launching it into space.
Chris Ferguson will be the last shuttle commander. He and his crew are all veteran astronauts.
Well, welcome to the flight deck. It's set up a lot like a commercial airliner, although it's anything but a regular airplane. Of course, I don't know the last time somebody flew a Delta Wing glider that weighs 230,000 pounds, but it does fly like a regular airplane. Of course, we have a control stick. We really don't fly it manually for very long, maybe for just a couple minutes.
The shuttles are built for grand goals. To create a permanent human presence in space. To take a first step on the road to other planets. But like any exploration of the unknown, it's dangerous. 2 out of 5 space shuttles have been lost in action, most recently in 2003.
STS-107, the mission that we lost Columbia on, started out all right until a large chunk of foam came off the external tank and smacked into the leading edge of the left-hand wing. And the program decided that it really wasn't necessary to utilize spy cameras to see if we could see anything on the leading edge. So we continued the mission.
I was standing out at the shuttle landing facility waiting for it to come home, and we have a clock out there, and the clock ticks down to 0 when the orbiter should be landing. And I'll never forget that clock ticked down to 0, but Columbia wasn't there. And so Columbia was somewhere between orbit and the Kennedy Space Center, and we didn't know where.
Orbital mechanics are such that if the rock falling out of space is 15 minutes late hitting the ground, the rock disappeared.
I received a call from one of my daughters who works in Houston training astronauts how to fly the space shuttle. And she says, "Daddy, we've lost contact." That was tough. It really was.
There's heavy grief in our hearts, which will diminish with time, but it will never go away, and we will never forget. Hail Rick, Willie, KC, Mike, Laurel, Dave, and Alan. Hail Columbia.
The entire shuttle program is put on hold until the loss of the Columbia is fully investigated. As today's countdown continues, the crew of Atlantis, like every crew before them, knows the risks. But there'd be no shortage of volunteers to take their place on the shuttle's last launch into space.